Well, it was one evening. My father was was reading the Daily Mirror, and it had an headline, something like "Gorilla Among the Roses." And Father, who was a keen gardener, thought, "Oh, I'll read this. You see, it might be a bit about hybrids." and he realised that it was his son. So he went. Mother was always in bed anyway, early, and he dashed upstairs and said, we used to call her Mum. Mother. That's right, I used to call her Mother. Mother, our Joe's been nicked.
It would be somewhere around about 1960. Now and again, some reader would bring in a book and say, look, I think this is wrong. And we'd find that there'd been a neatly typed caption pasted in over the original caption at the foot of a picture in a book. Sometimes amusing, sometimes mildly obscene. Gradually, these increased. And then we found a second type of thing started developing. And this was alterations to the actual book jackets. There's one here, it may not be very visible there, the pictures are rather small. It's a book about the great Tudors, and each one of the pictures has had a different face. That, in fact, is a monkey's face, carefully pasted over the original face on the photograph. A certain number of biographies where there was a portrait of the original biography on the front of the book were changed. This one of Robert Helpman has got a couple of people wrestling there on the front. Another biography was this one of John Betjeman, where the portrait of Betjeman has been replaced by a man with his whole body tattooed. Then we started getting these rather surrealistic ones. There's a similar one which was mentioned in the original trial for theft, of the picture of a monkey pasted over the middle of a rose in a book on roses. There's another one here which is mildly amusing. It's the novel The Steel Cocoon, and there's a very tight jockstrap pasted there underneath the title. Then we started getting some worked on the illustrations inside the books. This one here in a biography of, I think it was Gertrude Lawrence. I'm not quite sure. This is a still from the film, which is shown as an illustration, in which she's playing the part of Edith Cavell in a prison cell, and over here on this side there's the warder looking through the prison cell door at her, and in the middle is the middle torso section from a Greek statue at which she's gazing. Underneath it says, "During the Second World War, I was working from dawn to dusk to serve the many thousands of sailors, soldiers and airmen. American GIs came in shoals to my surgery, and some had very peculiar orders for me." And that was the picture that illustrated it. We had quite a series of these Gollancz books. This is an old and rather tatty cover now, but you can see they used to have an almost facsimile typewriter blurb down here, and by carefully taking this lot out, cutting down there, reversing the paper to get the blank side, they were able to place that back in position with a typewritten blurb on it. Most of these blurbs were written in the true style, so that one started reading almost without realizing that this was a thing which had been doctored. I'll read you a little bit of this one. "When little Betty McDree says that she's been interfered with, her mother at first laughs. It is only something the kiddies picked up off the television. But when, sorting through the laundry, Mrs. McDree discovers that a new pair of young Betty's knickers are missing, she thinks again." It goes on like that. They go to the police station, and young Betty identifies PC Brenda Coolidge as the attacker. A search is made of the women's police barracks. What is found there is a 7-inch phallus and a pair of knickers of the kind used by Betty. All looks black for kindly PC Coolidge. What can she do? This is one of the most enthralling stories ever written by Miss Sayers. It is the only one in which the murder weapon is concealed, not for reasons of fear, but for reasons of decency. And he goes on to say, "Read this behind closed doors and have a good shit whilst you're reading it." That's the sort of thing that shocked quite a number of our readers, the elderly, more ladylike ones. I must say that I and many of my colleagues almost looked forward to seeing these. They were amusing to us, but at the same time, of course, this was an attack on our books. Our book stock, of which we were very proud, was being attacked by predators.
Well, we had the names of Orton and Halliwell, who lived at 25 Knoll Road, Islington. We called in the Islington police, and I saw with Mr. Croft at the time, Detective Sergeant Hermitage. And I remember correctly, it was Easter Thursday, just before Good Friday, 1962. And he said, well, look, this is not a matter for the police, this is a civil matter. And I said, with the deputy, well, look, this is nonsense. These books are obscene. We've got a whole cabinet full of them. And he said, well, no, definitely a civil matter. But his parting shot was, look, if you can get a letter written on the typewriter that's been used on these dust covers of the books, then we'll have a look at it. So that was our problem. I said, OK, if you're setting us that problem, we'll see what we can do.
Sidney Porritt wrote to Halliwell in an official capacity and accused him of being the owner of a car illegally parked in Knoll Road. Needless to say, Halliwell did not own a car.
Did you get the reply?
In came a reply. Dear sir, I should like to know who provided you with this mysterious information. Whoever they are, they must be a liar, a moron, probably both. I have never possessed a car of any make whatsoever and never wish to. I can only presume that someone is staging a leg pull with you or me or both. I would suggest that in future you obtain your information from some more reliable source before pestering people with inexplicable letters. Yours contemptuously, signed Kenneth L. Halliwell, Kenneth L. Halliwell. Well, the letter did the trick. I, being quite zealous about it, already got myself a watchmaker's glass, and I was satisfied that it was the same typewriter. I'm sorry to have to say this, but in my view, it was nothing else but common theft. He may have become successful later on, but to me, they were both a stealer of library books, stealer of other people's property.
Their term was 6 months. Actually, Joe did quite enjoy prison. I mean, Halliwell tried to commit suicide twice, but Joe didn't. And I was determined to write to him, even though he didn't want to. I think there was only about 2 letters that came from prison, and one was at the beginning, and one was right at the end. And the one at the end was quite revealing, really, because he said that he'd found detachment in his writing. Well, in my naive way, really, I didn't understand what he really meant by that. I mean, it didn't really mean much. And that the Old Horse Society had really lifted up a skirt, and the stench was pretty foul. I realised that he'd had some sort of revelation in prison.
I'm going to ask you a question or two. I want straight answers, none of your piss-taking. Is that understood? Do I make myself plain? I'm talking English. Do you understand?
Yes.
Oh, all right, then. As long as we know. Now, be sensible. Where's the money?
By now, I'd say it was halfway up the aisle of the Church St. Barnabas and St. Jude.
Ah, jeez! How dare you! He's only a boy!
I'm not impressed with his sex, miss. I asked for the truth!
I'm telling the truth!
Understand this, lad. You can't get away with cheek. Kids nowadays treat any kind of authority as a challenge. We'll challenge you. If you oppose me in my duty, I'll kick those teeth through the back of your head. Is that clear?
Yeah.
Would you excuse me, Inspector?
You're at liberty to answer your own doorbell, miss. That is how we tell whether or not we live in a free country. Where's the money?
It's in church!
Don't lie to me!
I'm not lying, it's in church!
Under any other political system, I'd have you on the floor in tears!
He's got me on the floor in tears!
Where's the money?
Church, I've told you, they're quoting St. Paul over it!
I don't care, they're quoting the highway code over it. One last chance! Where is it?
In church, in church! My dad's watching the last rites, 104,000 quid!
I'll hose you down. I'll chlorinate you. You'll be laughing on the other side of your bloody face.
They've had an accident.